there, baseball fans. Nathan Rohde and Shooter Hunt here with the latest episode of Coffee and Curveballs. Shooter, we finished up recently a big swing of baseball going to the future games and to the West Coast for the area code games. On the last episode of Coffee and Curveballs, we talked about the future games. So this week, we're talking about the area code games out in California, namely the upper class portion.
Yeah, the area code really shuts down the summer. It culminates at things out there in Southern California at a really nice Long Beach State field. It was great to see all the scouts in attendance, watching those guys show out for one last time in the summer.
No doubt. It is, kind of one of the last big events of the summer. Obviously, there's stuff in the fall, but this is really the culmination of everything that goes on in the summer, starting with the Tournament of Stars and rolling through, all those travel tournaments. But let's talk about a few guys that stood out. Obviously, there's a ton to talk about. We'll go into more depth on a podcast as we always do. But today for Coffee and Curveballs, we're going to give you 7 names to really take a look at and remember for their performances at the area code games. And let's start with a guy from your neck of the woods in right-hander Jack Leiter out of Delbarton High School in New Jersey, committed to Vanderbilt. We've seen Jack a few times now, and I think the biggest thing about his area code performance was he just continues to show what he is. And for me, it makes me more and more comfortable with a guy like him because he is undersized. He's like 5'10", 5'11", probably in that $160 range. He'll put on some weight. But guys are comping him to Sonny Gray for good reason. And that's what he needs to be, and I'm getting more and more comfortable with that fact.
Yeah, it was the most electric performance that I saw at area code. Just to go up there, I think he was up to 94. It may have even been 94.6 or 8 or whatever it was on TrackMan, so flirting with that 95. But he was efficient. Went out there, I think he struck out 5 of 6 at one point, and it was strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
Very efficient, and I mean, it's easy to comp a Vandy commit who's of shorter size with electric stuff to Sonny Gray, but Leiter really looked like that out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the profile really does fit for him, and you're right. I had him 91, 94, and he was hitting the black with his fastball. Just really spotting up on the corners, making it tough for those hitters to hit. And he struck out 5 in a row. He started off the game with a pop out, and then he gave up a base hit to Brooks Lee, which we'll get to him in just a second. But then he went 5 straight strikeouts, and the last 3 guys he struck out were all 94 away on the black. So just, you combine the pitchability with the stuff, and usually it's that hammer breaking ball that he gets guys to swing and miss with, but, locating that fastball and getting guys to strike out is obviously a big weapon for him as well.
Yep, killer mentality, and he showed it. It was great to watch.
Mm-hmm, certainly was. So we mentioned Brooks Lee getting a hit off of Jack Leiter. That feels like what he did all week was get hits. And even though, not everything fell in for a hit, he squared up just about everything that came his way. Game 1, he's 2 for 2 with a walk with 91 and 99 mile an hour exit velos. Game 2, 1 for 3, 96 and 93 on the exits. 96 and 93 on outs, by the way, not the hit. Okay. 2 for 3 with an RBI and a 96 exit velocity in Game 3. Game 4, he was 0 for 3. Game 5, he was 0 for 2, but both of his outs in that last game were really hard outs. The dude, switch hitter, did it from both sides of the plate. He just finds the barrel.
Yeah, he's still really young looking, too. Cal Poly commit, going to go play for his dad, which they got to be excited about having him come to campus, especially after this showing, although they may be a little nervous with the draft.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a less heralded recruit coming into the area code, but geez, did he not show out. It was a lot of fun to watch him, even on the infield. Just seems to do everything right. Son of a coach seemed to do stuff like that a lot, and he was the epitome of that. But really, with that Southern California team that was, up and down throughout much of the week, Brooks Lee really was outstanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was consistent all week, and you mentioned it, on the infield. I don't know whether he stays at shortstop. The speed might limit him, but, third base, I think he'd profile, with the offensive upside that he has. Second base, I think he could definitely play defense there. He showed some decent range. He made a play up the middle while playing shortstop. and was able to go to his left pretty easily. But he's got plus hands too. They work really easy on the actions. You saw the quickness on a tag play that he had on a stolen base where he smacked the dude in the head
Oh yeah.
trying to steal the bag. So just an all-around good player, typical West Coast guy for me. And big week. I think we mentioned Jack Leiter first, but we knew who Jack Leiter was. But Brooks Lee coming in, based on him coming into the event and what he did, I think he was the biggest winner of the area code games.
You know what? I gotta agree with you because coming in, like you said, not many people nationwide knew who he was. Mm-hmm. But just watching the area codes, it was who's this Brooks Lee kid the entire time.
Yeah, no doubt. Everybody in SLO knows who he is and locally, but he definitely introduced himself to the country in terms of his prospect status. But moving on to our next guy, Jack Shanowitz out of Pennsylvania, Virginia recruit. Shooter, this is a guy that, I saw him at Tournament of Stars, really liked him. You saw him before that and you were a big fan, and it sounds like he was one of the guys you were buzzing about the most.
Yeah, I mean, he's about 6'5", 6'6", so it's a big physical kid, and what really impresses me is with the long limbs that he has, he's got a quick arm, it's a short arm stroke, and he's able to repeat his slot pretty effortlessly. And the fastball jumps out. He looks like a guy who's going to eat up 200 innings a year. The fastball works to both sides of the plate, and they put you away with a nice slider. And obviously, again, that frame is something that scouts are really going to see, and combine that with a quick arm, and it's not much effort coming out of there, so it's very possible and probably likely that he could be thrown even harder in the future. I think he's a guy who, looking forward to that 19 draft, is a guy who could catch some helium.
Certainly. And speaking of quick arms on the mound, Blake Mayfield, that was a guy that I hadn't been able to see before, and based off of his 2 outings for area code games, I'm in. It's pretty athletic, loose arm, sitting 90-91. He's a Texas A&M recruit, pitched 3 innings across 2 appearances and struck out 3. Obviously, a great pickup for the Aggies if they can get him on campus. Because based on what I've seen and the overall status of the class, he could hear his name pretty early in the draft if he keeps up, on that progression that we expect him to go.
Yeah, especially with some of those measurables. His drive off that backside getting down the mound, the extension, you're talking about 7 feet. I think one pitch like 7.6. So just the perceived velocity on that 90 to 92, what he was throwing, it's getting on those hitters much quicker. And then, he's got a really good breaking ball, and he's got a great feel for it. About 6'2" now, has started filling out even more than when I saw him in October. But he's one I immediately told you, hey, this Mayfield kid, I think he's got a chance to continue going up and up and up because he's going to get stronger over that offseason. And again, with that drive off the backside, it's going to be something a lot of teams looking at those advanced metrics are going to be honing in on.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned it in talking about his size. He's 6'1", 6'2", so he's not, obviously that's a good athletic frame, but it's not like he's 6'5", 6'6", and striding that 7 feet. That 7 feet of extension that he's getting is pretty impressive. And, obviously he's athletic because you got to be athletic to do something like that with his size.
Yep.
So keeping with with that Rangers team and guys out of Texas, Brett Beatty. I want to call him Batty. I think it's Beatty, but based on his profile at the plate, I really hope it's Batty. But he's a Texas recruit, big physical, left-handed hitting third baseman, and he got our attention right away with that batting practice show he put on. It was just stupid power, and he drove some balls to left center field off the wall, easy power to right center, clearing the fence. Blair Field's not an easy place to hit for power, and he made it look small.
Yeah, and even more so after BP, which immediately had him on my radar as well as yours. His pitch tracking at the plate was just so effortless. He's real quiet, never looked rushed at the dish, and again, the ball flies off his bat. And I mean, looking at history into the 2018 draft, where some of those big first basemen who went early on in high school, I mean, Beatty could be one of those guys next year. I thought he might have been even better than a couple of the ones from last year. So moving forward, he plays for Lake Travis, really good high school program. So they're going to get seen down in Texas. So he's a guy, Texas recruit, who, the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, it certainly is. He had multiple exit velocities of 100 to 101 miles an hour. So, like you said, ball was just flying off his barrel, and I was anticipating all of his at bats coming up. So
yeah, and I want to say he was in the home run derby. He had some 107, 108s off the barrel during that. So
pretty impressive. So looking forward to watching him in the spring and maybe even a little bit more this fall. But out of Oklahoma, so with that White Sox team, we had Bryce Osmond. He's an Oklahoma State recruit. Good outing from him early on in the event, 89 to 93. Tight breaking ball, and I put a future above average, maybe even plus on the pitch.
Wow.
Through 2 innings, hit one batter, allowed one other guy, I think, just on an error, and struck out 4. He's got one of those athletic frames where it looks a little thin now, but you can tell that he's just, with the broad shoulders, he's going to fill out, and the trajectory for him is obviously angled upward pretty good.
Yeah, and he also hits, so there's that athleticism in there. And I think looking back the underclass last year that he was at, I want to say in my notes it was he pitches mean, like he's looking to strike guys out, and I think that shows with the breaking ball, and it's only going to help him moving forward into June of 19.
It certainly is. So shifting now to the Southeast, kind of take a look at that Nationals team. A guy on it is right-hander Antoine Harris out of Louisiana, committed to New Orleans. It's a great recruit for New Orleans. 89 to 91, touched 93, pitched 3 innings, allowed a couple runs on a hit, a couple walks, so you want to see him kind of harness that control, but he struck out 4. It's that long projectable frame. He just walks on the mound, and you're like, okay, I'm going to take a look at this. And then he's got feel for the changeup, which I really liked, and flash sharpness to the slider, so there's the makings of 3 or more pitches there.
Yeah, another metrics guy who scouts are going to love. But he was at the Future Games last year. Showed off the same real good arm. You touched on it. The changeup's a really good pitch. Last year, the slider really wasn't there for him, but I thought he showed well with that pitch at area codes where he was able to throw it for strikes, giving the scouts and attendants hope that in the future it becomes an average, maybe even slightly above average pitch. But the fastball at the 93, it's an athletic kid, and the arm really works. So he's another one that, Louisiana, Texas got a lot of kids coming out next year that the scouts are going to be locked in on.
They certainly are. So that's 7 guys from the area code games that were standouts for us. Obviously, way more to go over, so tune into the podcast. That's on prepbaseballreport.com. We'll go over each team, guys from each team that stood out to us. On the next episode, Shooter, it's all about you, as we're going to talk about the area code underclass guys.
Can't wait. It's one of my favorite events of the year because all those committed guys come together for one final time at the end of the summer, and I had a great time at it. There's some big time names coming out of it.
Yeah, it certainly was. A lot of fun to see some of those guys, get a little sneak peek for myself. So be sure to tune in next week's episode of Coffee and Curveballs as we go over standouts from the area code underclass games. But for Shooter Hunt, I'm Nathan Rohde. This was Coffee and Curveballs. And until next time, we'll see you guys at the ballpark.